Hey mathematicians, what we have here is a diameter of a circle that is perpendicular to the chord of that circle. The diameter is DE and the chord is AB. And we also have a list of statements, and we're going to go through those statements to figure out if they are true statements or not. I'm going to start with the first statement, which says triangle ACF and triangle BCF are right triangles. I'm starting off by highlighting the triangles just so that we can see them individually. And it looks like those two triangles are right triangles because they have 90-degree angles in them. So that one's a true statement. All right, so the next one I'm going to look at is the statement that says CF is congruent to CF. So it's talking about segment CF. That's a true statement because we're just saying a segment is congruent to itself. And if you remember back to triangle congruence, we used reflexive property when we said a segment was congruent to itself. All right, the next one I'm going to look at is the one talking about triangle ACB. It says triangle ACB is an isosceles triangle. That is a true statement. They're basically saying AC is congruent to CB because that's the only way it can be an isosceles triangle. And we know that AC and CB are both radii of the circle. So those are true statements. Next thing we're going to look at is the statement that says triangle ACF is congruent to triangle BCF. That's a true statement because of everything we said before. We were able to say that it was a right triangle. We were able to prove that a hypotenuse and leg were congruent, so it's congruent. Those two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg. All right, the next statement says AF is congruent to FB. That is a true statement because of Cpctc. We're just saying corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Hopefully you guys remember that from triangle congruence. The next one says DE is a perpendicular bisector of AB. That's a true statement because segment AF is congruent to segment FB. We said that in the earlier thing that we stated was true. All right, now we've just got one more thing to look at. The last thing to think about is the part that says arc AE is congruent to arc EB. Well, we're going to break this one down by looking at each of those congruent angles I marked on the image. Those angles are congruent by Cpctc. We're just saying because the triangles are congruent, their corresponding parts are congruent. Those angles are actually central angles. And whatever the measure of a central angle is also going to be the measure of its intercepted arc. Therefore, because those two angles are congruent, the arcs are also congruent to each other. They're the same measure, so their arcs are the same measure.